Had the camera back a little further than usual. Sorry, had to reach for it. So, this one's going to be for the young men. And we're going to talk about responsibilities. Now, this is going to terrify some of you. This is going to irritate, potentially offend some of you. But you had to be aware, gentlemen, and we should always call each other gentlemen where we can. But you have to be aware that as a man, you have certain duties and responsibilities in life. Irregardless of what society tells you, you have certain things that are thrust upon you by nature of being born male. You are expected, not permitted, not requested, you are required to be a protector, a provider, and a defender. Women are wonderful creatures, and sometimes my phone's vibrating in my pocket. Just a second. My apologies. And that's also something you should take into account. The way you use your manners, whether you say please, thank you, my apologies, I'm sorry, all of these things are indicative of a well-bred man, of a well-mannered individual. There are certain things that society needs from us. There are certain things our nature demands of us. While you can be completely fulfilled, no, let me past check and change that. You can be fulfilled by your career, your gaming, your relationships with your friends. You can be fulfilled by those, but you cannot be completely fulfilled until you have a partner in life. Whether it's male or female, every man needs someone to need them. And being needed places certain requirements upon you, and you should be happy for those requirements, for those obligations. Jordan Peterson has said, don't look to have a happy life. Look to have a life of obligation, because completing an obligation, fulfilling an obligation, fulfills you. When you are told, I need such and such by a woman or by anyone, and you provide it, that hits you right here. That makes you feel pride as a man and the sense of accomplishment that makes men feel fulfilled. A lot of the depression that men are feeling is because society has taken some of that power. Now, we can fight society, or we can say, fuck society, and do our own thing. In doing your own thing, which is fine, you have to realize that you still have those obligations to your family, your friends, your community, your partner, or spouse, whatever term you like to use for that intimate someone in your life. And if you are not fulfilling those, you will feel the lack. You will feel like a loser. No matter if you have $10 million in your bank account. Okay, if you had $10 million in your bank account and you couldn't fulfill someone else's needs, there's something wrong with you. But you will feel less of a man if you are not fulfilling the three key phases of masculinity: the hunter, the husband, and the sage. Now, this is something I don't generally talk about a lot because it's something that I formulated when I was a pagan cleric. It was a response to the triple goddess concept: the maiden, the mother, and the crone. In Wicca, generally, is where this originates. The idea that women go through 3 stages of their life. And that's true. Women do have 3 distinct stages in their lives. They are the young woman, or the girl, the maiden, before she is, not to be crude, but before she is deflowered. She is innocent, pure, and love. All the sweetness and light, all that sort of stuff. That sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. Then you have the mother. And the mothers have similar obligations that the fathers do. Provision, defense, protection, education. More especially for girls than boys. But boys have to be educated in part by their mothers. But they also need their fathers. And that's where the husband is. The husband is the one who performs his duties, not out of obligation, not out of love, but both. You are called, whether you want to say called by God, called by nature, called by society, though society is breaking on this. Society has broken on this particular thing. They no longer require men to be men. And in some cases, society is actively disabling men from being men. Whether you want to look at it from the perspective of the MGTOW movement, where they say, oh, feminism has attempted to turn women into men and make men into lesser women. And by the same token, make women lesser men. Yes and no. But what's more important is that men still exist. And not only do we still exist, we are still needed. Do not ever believe that society doesn't need you to be a man. You are called by nature or by God, whatever term you want to use, to be manly. Manly men are not the chiseled knobs that you see in the gym. Those guys can go to the gym 8 hours a day, build themselves into a fucking Adonis, and still be less of a man than the tubby dude who goes to work every day and hands his paycheck to his wife at the end of the week so that his kids get fed. That's a real hero. Now, that's not to take anything away from the soldier. The soldiers are the ones who risk their lives, knowing full well they may lose them to defend their people, or their country, or their freedoms, whatever object they choose to defend. And if you take on those obligations, those responsibilities, the moment you put yourself in the situation where you are expected to fulfill an obligation, you don't have the option to back out. I don't give a shit what society says about divorce or relationships being frivolous things. Relationships are not frivolous things. When you enter into a relationship with someone, you make them your obligation. If you give your heart to a woman or a man, I won't judge you, but I will couch this more in heteronormative terms for the sake of using a term that I really hate, but has become simple shorthand. If you engage in a relationship with someone, as a man, you have certain expectations, provision and protection chief among them. You become, as the Christians would say, you become the rock upon which the house is built. Yeah, you find that terrifying and intimidating. You should. The thing is, you're a man and you can rise to it. And when you rise to it, you will feel more like a man than you ever have. When you go out and you find someone, the hunter, you go and you find someone who needs you. Being needed makes men feel like men. Fulfilling the role that you're needed to fulfill makes you feel even more like a man. There's an old country song that goes, "Let me watch my children grow to see what they become." And that's where the husband and the sage transition occurs. Now, understand, where women have that very delineated separation between maiden, mother, and crone, or grandmother if you choose to use the native term, where women have very delineated points, men don't have that delineation. These are not stages, set stages. men's life markers can occur at any time, and all of those roles, we'll use the term roles rather than stages or phases. Men are expected to be able to fulfill all three of those roles from pretty much the time we leave childhood. When we are, and even in childhood, when we are children with each other, when men and boys interact with each other, we are constantly teaching each other how to behave. The sage is there. Whether it's saying that's not fair play on the playground, or whether we're saying this is an injustice in court or in the street, whether we're telling a child, okay, this is how you build something, this is how you defend yourself, this is how you do whatever. Those roles are not universal, but they're lifetime roles. And we were equipped, and this should give you some confidence. Nature has equipped us as men to be men. Society occasionally gets in the way. But if you can manage to find that balance between being a social male and a natural male, then you've got it. As the Newfoundland expression goes, you've got her scald, which basically means you've got it made. When you take on the burdens of manhood, you are not necessarily required to reject the things you loved in childhood. There should be a natural point where playing with figures or toys becomes something that you go, I'm kind of done with this. And you move on to the more mature things, like work, building a trade, building a degree, or gaining a degree, earning a degree. I do apologize, I'm burping a fair bit. I'm actually going to pause and see if I can't clear that. Again, one of the things that men should be attempting to emulate is the gentleman as well. And the gentleman is a slightly different role than the natural male. And I know, all of this stuff sounds like, how am I ever going to manage to do this? You've got this. Trust me, you can do this. I've found through a hard life with hard-earned wisdom that nature does not leave you ill-equipped for anything. Just had to pause while there was a loud engine outside. Nature does not ill-equip you for this. Nature provides you all the tools you should need. But when it comes to a man learning how to be a man, the only one who can teach you that is another man. Now, maybe this is helping you. I hope very sincerely that what I'm saying is helping you. If you feel like this is overwhelming you, understand, you are not going to fail unless you don't try. You may have to try more than once to succeed, but there is always, always a success coming. For myself, I have been fighting depression for decades. I'm finally at a point, I think, where it doesn't rule me. It is not constantly in my head that I'm lesser than I think I am. It's not... every day doesn't look darker than the day before anymore. And young men in high school who are going through that chaos of the life changes, there's a talk that I wish I had gotten that I didn't. Life doesn't get easier. Life gets to be something that you learn to deal with more easily. One, as Bruce Lee said, one should never wish for an easy life. One should wish for the strength to deal with the hardships that come. Actually, I do apologize there too. That's a bit of a misquote, but even paraphrased, it's still a worthy concept to take on. Now, I know for the really young guys that are watching this, this is going to be a hard thing to hear. Life doesn't give a fuck about you. It's a horrible thing to take on board, but it's true. Life doesn't care whether you succeed or fail. You have to care whether you succeed or fail. And men have to stand together, and we have to lift each other up. Sometimes that might mean knocking each other down in order to teach each other how to behave as men. But once you get to the point where you can see yourself as a man, hello, sunshine. Once you get to that point, you are... I'm just getting a kick out of the fact that I'm getting God acting as my lighting guy, which probably means the lighting will go in a second anyway. There it goes. But once you get to the point that you can perceive yourself as a man, once you have the confidence and competence to be able to say, and I will couch this in a bit of a comedy thing, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and God, doggone it, people like me. Once you get to the point that you accept and can realistically see that you are a good man, then truly, as Rudyard Kipling's poem If goes, yours is the earth and all that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. The importance of understanding that you didn't start life at a disadvantage because you were a man. You didn't start life evil or bad because you were born male. Okay, here's something that's going to offend some people, but I'm going to say it. Women do have an easier time in life because men will go out of their way because of our nature and our instinct to help women. That's part of our role as men. And thousands, eons of evolution have put us on this place or in this role. Don't fight nature. Nature is telling you, whether you want to call it God's plan or the natural course of evolution or whatever, it's telling you what you need to do to feel like a man, to feel good about yourself, to have confidence. And I will tell every single one of you now, it does get better, but the only one who can make it better is you. So boys, men, gentlemen, fellows, you're good, you're worthy, but you can always do better. So, I hope you're having a good day. I hope you continue to have good days and rise again until lambs become lions. Bye-bye.